Hi guys, today we're taking a look at a Petri F1.5 color corrected super. I'll explain the long name in a second. I got this at an antique store for $24.31. When they were new they cost $79.95. On eBay they're worth about $40. This one is in pretty good condition with two exceptions. The slow shutter speed is sticky, and that could be easily corrected by cleaning and lubricating. And the picture counter reset stopped working, and actually when I demo it, it may or may not work, but it was working when I first was looking at it a couple days ago, and for now I just don't know yet. The only personal significance to this camera is that it is a great example of a simple and reliable Japanese rangefinder camera. Now, a little bit of history about these cameras, not so much about the Petri company history, but this particular series of cameras. They made 35mm rangefinder cameras with various names throughout the years. They made cameras in general from 1920s to 1977, but the 35mm rangefinders were shorter range. And the interesting thing was they never had model numbers, with one exception. There was one called a Petri Automate, but the rest of them are only distinguished or identified by the number 35 and the speed of the lens, and unofficially by the feature of the camera. So hence the long name for this one is a Petri F1.9 color corrected super. These were made from 1957 to 1961, and this was a very popular camera, very reliable, but it couldn't compete with the changing market for single lens reflexes and the German Leicas. Its only real features are it has a relatively sharp lens and a fast f.9 aperture. And you could argue a good feature is there is no battery required. At the time these were produced, a lot of the new rangefinders had light sensors of some sort built into them, some through the lens, some with eyes, and invariably, by the time they're this old, they're usually inaccurate or failing completely. Since you have no light sensor in this one, you don't have that problem. Let's take a look at the features on this camera. This is the film rewind knob, and it, unlike most of them, it doesn't have the little spinner dial, but it flips over like that to give you access to the spinner to rewind the film. And it also pops up for loading the film. It has a cold shoe. This is the frame counter window, which is reset right now because it started working again mysteriously. And this is the ASA reminder dial, or the film speed dial. There are two arcs, one black with an arrow and one red with an arrow, so that you would point it to remind you that you have color film or black and white film. It's just a reminder. It doesn't connect to anything inside the camera. So for instance, we'll put this to ASA 400 color film. This is the shutter speed, or I'm sorry, the shutter button, and there is no threaded socket, so it's just a simple shutter button, and of course the winding lever. And right now it's set at a 500th of a second. On the camera bottom, we just have the tripod socket and the film rewind button. On the camera front, we have the shutter speed dial. We're working our way from the front of the lens backwards. Right now it's at a 500th of a second. It's maximum fastest shutter speed, and the slowest is 1 second, and of course B for bulb. And again, the slow shutter speeds on this one are sticky, and I won't attempt to try and use them. This is the self-timer lever. You just cock it up, click the shutter. Oops, I have to cock it. Click the shutter, and the shutter speed self-timer will count down and release the shutter for 1/500th of a second. On the side is the flash sync connector, and next to that is the flash sync lever that selects X sync, which is in red, or M sync for flash bulbs, which is in yellow. And of course, X sync is for electronic flash. This is the aperture dial from f1.9 to f16, and it's a beautiful round aperture, would give you wonderful bokeh. This is the focus lever, and right now it's at the closest focal distance of 2.8 feet, and pushing it out here will retract the lens to its infinity position. And behind the scale in feet is the depth of field scale, which is part of the camera, not part of the lens, although it's not a removable lens, so it hardly matters. On this side of the camera, we have the camera strap lug and a hinge for the door. Interestingly, in the Petri owner's manual, they call this camera strap lug the hang ring, so you can hang stuff on it. On the other side, we have another camera strap lug and the loading latch to open the back. And it loads a little, it's a little confusing, but it would look like this is a lever you would pull out or something, but it's not. That's just part of the back. You just pull down on it and it pops the back open, and theoretically automatically resets the frame counter to 0, or actually to a red spot 2 before the first picture. You would push that up to load the film. On the back, of course, we have the viewfinder window for the rangefinder, and it's very small, but the image inside is nice and bright. For the split image, rangefinder works wonderfully. So let's load a roll of film here. I'll cock this to get it in some good position to get the film in the little spool. And it has reset the counter 1 past S, because I cocked it too many times, I guess. And now we're ready to take our first picture, or actually our second picture in that case. And again, like all cameras, you have a rewind button on the bottom and a little flip up lever to get at that. And to rewind the film, we just hold that button in and crank. You can feel the resistance. And I'll open it up before I rewind too much of that film, because I want to reuse it for demo purposes. It's a beautiful little camera. It would be fun to take pictures with if you could afford to use 35mm film in developing. So thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.